And here we are, my official predictions for what will happen at the 2025 NBA trade deadline as the rumors and storylines are building and we are nearing the deadline. And I have to make this video now or never. With almost every single contender's most desired player this year being Cam Johnson, we have to start with him because he is going to be a domino effect as once he is dealt, all the losers in his sweepstakes will have to pivot elsewhere at the deadline. I will be predicting that the Pacers, Kings, Grizzlies, and many other hopefuls to land Johnson strike out as the Oklahoma City Thunder make a massive trade to get him and win the sweepstakes. It is no surprise that the Thunder will have the best trade package for the Nets, but it is also no surprise that the Thunder desperately need a reliable three-point shooter to help improve their offense, as the team is pretty clearly ultra reliant on SGA on that end, which could loom large in the playoffs as it isn't exactly a recipe for success. Adding Cam will allow their offense to reach an unimaginable level while also maintaining their historically great defense. Sam Presti knows that it is time to make the final move to push this team into the ultimate favorite, and with such a perfect player for them being available, I believe they will get that player now. Outside of Cam Johnson being moved, the Nets are not going to make any more moves, as the other players they could move for anything are on expiring deals, so it is really pointless making any other moves, and I think they understand that. The crosstown rival known as the Knicks need depth, and they need to make a move for depth, but they only have one movable player in Mitchell Robinson. And guess what? I'm predicting the Knicks do nothing meaningful and hold on to Robinson since there are really no trade partners for him. Not wanting to hurt team chemistry after a historic start is understandable for the Cavs, but a player that can fit their 3-and-D needs at a cheap price without hurting the chemistry resides in Chicago and Torrey Craig, and I believe that's who the Cavs land. With Craig being traded, you'd think Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic would be traded too, right? Wrong. The Bulls will follow their consistent theme at deadlines and hold on to both players. I sure hope I am wrong, but I doubt I will be, and I'm predicting LaVine and Vuce are still Chicago Bulls after the deadline. The Detroit Pistons have been rumored to be the Zach LaVine market, as they're probably the only team that has the financial flexibility to actually get him and has interest in him, but I doubt they go after him because the money is just so much. Jaden Ivey's coming back next year, and the team doesn't really want to rush the process, and because of that, I think Zach LaVine isn't going to be a Piston as much as I'd love to see that, and I think it's a good idea that the Pistons don't do it. So I'm predicting LaVine stays put in Chicago and is not a Piston. The only player Dallas is rumored to move is Daniel Gafford, and guess what? Derek Lively just got hurt, so they're not trading him. Denver is going to pray for Bruce Brown to be bought out and sign him, but no trades will be made, as I don't think they're going to give up Michael Porter Jr., as much as I would be interested to see what that trade looks like. I'm expecting the Jazz not to make 1, 2, but 3 trades this year. Trade 1 will be a Colin Sexton deal, as he will be sent to Orlando, because regardless of how well the Magic have played without Paolo and Franz this season, this Magic team is extremely flawed on offense, and because of that, they currently find themselves in the play-in picture. A move for a player like Sexton, who may not be the best defender but could buy in, and with his skill set on offense, he would be a perfect fit for the Magic team that really needs a true guard that can provide them offense and structure, is really a no-brainer. So I got Sexton going to Orlando at the deadline. Shift into the next trade. After the Kings strike out with Cam Johnson, their plan B, John Collins, is going to become their plan A, and they will complete a deal with the Jazz landing John Collins to get their versatile wing they desperately need. And the last Jazz trade will be the Jazz landing another overpaid guard that has no market in Gabe Vincent and a second-round pick, while LA gets Drew Eubanks and Patty Mills to provide size and some shooting, I guess. The Lakers are reported to not be making any big deals, which is not going to make LeBron and AD happy, as that's also been rumored right now. The Lakers are going to make a small deal, and this is probably something along the lines of what deal we're going to get from LA. The 76ers season is a lost one, but they could shock us and trade both Yabusele and Oubre to get returns, as both players are valued in the league. I don't see it happening, so I won't predict it, but don't be surprised if they call it a year in Philly and prepare for 2026. If both players are made available, they would be great fits in Golden State, especially as a package deal. However, again, I doubt that's a real possibility. Vucevic, on the other hand, is real, but thinking about it logistically, the Bulls aren't going to trade him because they don't make beneficial deadline moves, and the Warriors don't want to be too aggressive and give up anything for anyone, so as amazing of a fit he is, the Warriors are not going to make a move for Vuce, nor will they make any moves annoyingly enough. Kyle Kuzma will no longer be a member of the Wizards after this deadline, as his value is depleted so low right now, and there isn't really a way for him to play it up, as the Wizards have all these young players at the same position that need to play. So Kuzma's minutes are only going to go down. The Grizzlies are kind of stupidly looking for another wing rather than a physical presence at the 5, and with John Collins and Cam Johnson off the board, I believe their focus will be Kyle Kuzma, and then a 3-team deal with the Wizards and Clippers. I believe Kyle Kuzma will find himself in Memphis, although I would not like to see that. In this deal, the Clippers will be shipping PJ Tucker and Bones Highland to the Wizards as they swoop in and get Marcus Smart. Smart may not be the same player he once was, but at the end of the day, the Clippers need another player with edge to run the bench unit, as Powell is starting now, and the bench is their weakness. So getting Smart to become their 6th man will do wonders for the team. Also keep an eye on them to add a backup budget big. Toronto wants in on the Jimmy Butler deal as the 3rd or even 4th team, but the likelihood of that is shrinking as we get more and more updates on the situation. As it stands now, they have both Bruce Brown, who will inevitably be bought out, as the money is just too much to work out any deal. MPJ for Bruce Brown and Chris Boucher is a possibility, but MPJ in Toronto isn't exactly going to work out financially in the long term for the Raptors, so I doubt Toronto agrees to a deal with the Nuggets regarding that. Boucher has a market, but isn't exactly the center teams are desperate for, so I believe he will remain in Toronto. Shockingly, I don't think Brandon Ingram will be traded at the deadline, nor do I think any of DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, or Zion will be traded from the Pelicans. The team is thought to be active in these 4 markets, but at the end of the day, all 4 of their contracts are just really unmovable, so it's really doubtful to see how a trade would work, especially since they don't even have that big of markets at the end of the day. The Timberwolves will be disappointing by not making any moves. Unless they can find a way for Cam Johnson, the Pacers are going to finish 2nd in the Johnson sweepstakes and be quiet. Blazers quiet, Celtics quiet, and same case for the Hornets, Spurs, and Rockets. All those teams I just mentioned, if you didn't get it, are not going to make any moves at the deadline. So we're going to go team by team for this final trade prediction because it's a lot. And I think you already know what the deal is going to entail. Since I don't know the exact deal, but I think it is almost a guarantee that my Phoenix Suns land Jimmy Butler. It is going to happen. The move that has been rumored and updated daily will go through, and it's seemingly all but confirmed now. I don't think this really elevates the Suns' ceiling as a team, though, considering we look disastrous as is. But hey, he led an 8 seed to the NBA Finals 2 short years ago, and with KD and D Book, the sky's the limit, as long as we don't match up with the Thunder 1st or 2nd round, since I think we could make a run to the conference finals. I mean, we definitely would need to be the 2, 3, 6 or 7 seed and get perfect matchups for us in order to do that. But I can say we can make the conference finals depending on the matchups. So yeah, we can go out and get Jimmy Butler, since right now what we're doing is certainly in it. I certainly wouldn't say we are conference finals contenders, but hey, we are more likely with Butler than we are as now. But the Suns really are only going to have to move Bradley Beal in this deal, and it depends on if we get another player, including Jimmy Butler, in the deal. Obviously, first-round picks are going to have to go out, since we just made that trade with Utah for a very specific reason. As for the Miami Heat, we know they aren't getting Beal, and the obvious team Beal is headed to is the Bucks. Right now, the focus is on the Heat, and Chris Middleton is not going to end up in Miami in my eyes. I believe Chris Middleton will end up on the 4th team in this deal. Miami will either get expiring contracts and draft capital, or the player they've been looking at for the long term. Brandon Ingram is rumored, but I don't think that is their guy. And honestly, I believe they are going to look to stockpile draft capital and expirings to go out and trade or sign their perfect player next offseason. In all likelihood, the Miami Heat will receive Brook Lopez and his expiring deal, along with a few other things just to make the money work. But the Miami Heat are really just going to get assets and Brook Lopez in return for Jimmy Butler. And finally, we have the Milwaukee Bucks, the 3rd team and the only team in the NBA that seemingly has interest in Bradley Beal, but also the only team that does have it that Beal is willing to waive his no-trade clause for. With those two things, it is pretty likely Beal ends up with the Bucks, as much as I disagree with it. The goal, I guess, is to form a big three, despite the fact the Bucks really need defensive help, and not to mention the fact big threes have been extremely unsuccessful of late. I mean, just look at the Eastern Conference rival, the 76ers. Oh, and even the team you're trading with, the Phoenix Suns. Where have the big threes been successful? That's a question that there is no answer for, since big threes are not successful in today's game. It really makes no sense why the Bucks want this in my eyes, as it doesn't really move them into the favorites convo, but hey, I'm not their GM nor a fan. The worst part about it, though, in my opinion, is that they are either going to have to give up one of Brook Lopez or Bobby Portis to make the deal work. Not at all the ideal recipe for success, especially when size is such a big factor into their successes. One of the reasons I can't mock a deal is because before a deal is done, it is almost impossible to make a deal without Pat Connaughton being moved in a separate trade. I ultimately think they move Connaughton and then go all in for Beal, even if it means harming themselves for both the short and long term with a size disadvantage and also another big three that eats up $180 million. Not on board with it, but I am predicting it. If it is not clear, the basis of my prediction is that Bradley Beal will be a Milwaukee Buck and Jimmy Butler will be a Phoenix Sun at the end of the deadline. I hope you all enjoyed my official trade deadline predictions. Comment down below your predictions for the deadline. Check out my latest episode of In Case You Missed It, my weekly recap on my channel that drops every Monday on the upper left, as well as my best landing spots for every player at the trade deadline in the upper right. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video if you enjoyed. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one. Bye.